The state of Maryland may return to Democratic control this fall, possibly, after outgoing Republican Governor Larry Hogan's chosen successor lost her primary this week to the new Republican nominee, Dan Cox. He's a Maryland delegate and 2020 election denier who was backed by former President Trump. Here with me to discuss is the Republican governor of Maryland, Larry Hogan. So let's talk about Mr. Cox. He embraced the QAnon insanity. He organized buses to the Stop the Steal rally on January 6th. He even tweeted that Mike Pence was a traitor while the Capitol was under assault. Do you think there's any chance he could win? And if so, what might that mean for Maryland?
Well, I don't think there's any chance that he can win. But there's no question this was a big win for the Democratic Governors Association that I think spent over $3 million trying to promote this guy. And it was basically collusion between Trump and the National Democrats who propped this guy up and got him elected. But he really is not a serious candidate.
Well, I mean, I understand the DGA put in money to fund ads to promote Dan Cox, but then Republican voters, 142,000 of them, went out and voted based on the messages the Democrats put out there, which were accurate about Dan Cox and who he was. So it's really Republican voters that did this.
Well, some of them. I mean, we only have a little over 20% of the people in Maryland are Republican, and only 20% of them showed up at the polls. So it's about 2% of the people of our state that voted for the guy. And in the general election, I think it's going to be a different situation.
You've said you're not going to support him in November, so are you going to vote for the Democratic nominee, Wes Moore?
I'm going to have to make a decision about that between now and November, but I'm certainly not going to support this guy. I said I wouldn't. He's not qualified to be governor.
So you have previously told me you're fighting a battle for the future of the Republican Party, maybe even the soul of the Republican Party, given this election denier's win, plus the guy running for Attorney General who's also unhinged. And then there's a good chance that Congresswoman Liz Cheney is going to lose her primary in August. Is it fair to say that you and Liz Cheney you're fighting this battle, but you're losing it?
Well, there's no question that we lost a battle and we're losing a few battles, but the fight is long. It's long from being over. I mean, we have another couple of years before the next election. I said in November of 20, I gave a speech at the Reagan Institute saying there's going to be a long battle for the heart and soul of the Republican Party, and this is just the beginning. I think in November we're going to have a different story when a lot of these fringe candidates lose. And then we're going to have to start thinking about, between November's election and the election 2 years later, what kind of a party are we going to be? And can we get back to a more Reagan-esque big tent party that appeals to more people? Or are we going to double down on failure?
One of the things we heard during the January 6th hearing Thursday was the degree to which top Trump officials were chagrined that Donald Trump, during the riot, during the insurrection, for 3 hours and 7 minutes, would not take any action to stop it, including not calling the military or law enforcement or anyone to stop the violence of his supporters attacking the Capitol. I want to play a little bit of that testimony.
Are you aware of any phone call by the President of the United States to the Secretary of Defense that day?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Are you aware of any phone call by the President of the United States to the Attorney General of the United States that day?
No.
Are you aware of any phone call by the President of the United States to the Secretary of Homeland Security that day?
I'm not aware of that, no.
So just to remind our viewers, at the time Donald Trump was not taking action, you were fielding panicked calls from congressional leaders. You were trying to mobilize Maryland police, Maryland National Guard, and Donald Trump was just sitting there watching, and from some accounts, gleefully. What's your reaction?
Well, I was aware of all of that, so that it didn't come as a surprise to me to watch these hearings. But you're right. I was taking action nonstop for 3 hours. I was on the phone twice with the leaders of Congress. I was talking to the mayor of D.C. I sent in a couple of hundred riot-trained Maryland State Police almost immediately. I called up the Maryland National Guard, and we were attempting for several hours to get approval of the Secretary of Defense, which we didn't get. And I finally, several hours later, got Ryan McCarthy, acting Secretary of the Army, to say we could send the National Guard. But while he was doing nothing but watching television in the dining room, our entire team was mobilizing and acting and fielding calls and sending in help. We were trying to protect Mike Pence and the members of Congress.
But what was I know that's what you were doing, but what's your reaction? What's your reaction to hearing that that's what Donald Trump,
it doesn't surprise me, because that's what I knew that he wasn't taking action,
okay.
and I knew that, we were getting stonewalled. But It is pretty. I mean, I think the testimony made it more riveting for a lot of people that were paying attention.
I'm a history buff, as you know, and I like to talk about your dad, Larry Hogan Sr., who was a congressman, and the courage he showed as a Republican congressman on the House Judiciary Committee, standing up against the abuses of Richard Nixon. What do you think he would make of the fact that even after this months-long damning investigation, plus all of this, really, honestly, unlike Watergate, this all played out in front of all of us. We all saw it happening. Yes. What do you think your dad would make of the fact that so few Republicans are willing to take a risk and stand up to this madness?
Well, I think he would be disgusted. I learned a lot about integrity from my dad, and I've been one of the ones speaking out. There are more people now who are starting to stand up, but it's kind of too little, too late. But people are starting to become aware. I've said over and over again, Donald Trump's influence is it is diminished and will continue to diminish between now and the next election.
I want to ask you about a development. Obviously, you say that you personally consider yourself pro-life, but you're not going to take any actions as governor of Maryland to stand in the way of a woman or girl's right to an abortion. Do you think the rush of some of your fellow Republican governors to enact complete zero bans is a political mistake and a moral mistake? I mean, we literally are seeing stories about women who have miscarriages, who are being forced into medical situations where they have pain, girls who are raped, whose politicians are saying you need to carry that rapist's child to term. What's your reaction?
Well, look, I think most people in America do not have an extreme position on abortion, and even if they say they're pro-life, they still want they still would agree with some reasonable restrictions. And people that say that they're pro-life also believe in some exceptions.
You mean pro-choice and pro-life?
Pro-choice and pro-life. Most of America is somewhere in the gray area. They're okay with reasonable restrictions, but not some of these actions that are being taken. And I think the extremes on both sides are not where America is. I also think this is not going to be the issue. It's going to fire up people on the left and the right, but most people are going to be making their decisions, based on the economy and the troubles they're having buying groceries and filling up their gas and worried about crime and education.
Last time I interviewed you, you acknowledged that you're considering a presidential run in 2024. Does what happened this week in Maryland make you more or less likely to run for president?
Well, it makes me more concerned about the future of the party and more concerned about the future of the country. So, I can tell you I'm not giving up. It just makes me want to double down and fight back against what I think is kind of a hostile takeover of the party that I love, that I've been involved in my whole life.
Governor Hogan, always good to see you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Congratulations on the new grandchild.